If you're in the thick of parenting and you know that you want to break generational cycles, this is the episode for you. Welcome back to the Broken to Brave podcast. I have Wendy here with me today, who's a parenting coach, and she has broken her fair share of generational cycles and now made it her mission to guide others to do the same. Welcome to the podcast, Wendy.
Steph, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to have this conversation, and I really respect the work that you do in the world. So thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Thank you so much. Helping people in the things that we struggled with, right?
Yes, exactly.
That's why I'm here.
It's so good when you can use those valleys and hard seasons and come out the other end and then be able to help others. So we're in together in that.
Yes. So I want to hear more about your story and what led you to do this work. But just to summarize real quick, tell listeners, what exactly do you do?
Yeah. So when I first got certified, I referred to myself as a positive parenting educator and family life coach. But nowadays, since I wrote this book, I am now anchoring down into the term powerful parenting, because what I teach families is how to really ditch and let go of the hand-me-down parenting tactics, which for most of us was a system of authoritarianism or autocratic parenting, and shift into democratic, firm, and kind parenting. So this is kind of the middle ground between too firm and too kind. So too firm would be autocratic or authoritarian systems, which are very power over. They use a lot of fear, force, intimidation, humiliation, shame, guilt, all that kind of stuff, which is for most of us just the way we were raised, right? It was just like,
Yep.
If you got in trouble, you were going to be shamed. What's wrong with you? You get a timeout, whatever. There was all different levels of autocratic parenting, but it really was the way. Yeah. And on the other side of that is I find much less of our families grew up in permissive homes, but there are permissive homes where there just wasn't a lot of rules and that type of thing. But right in the middle is democratic, firm, and kind parenting. And it is all about connection-based, relationship-based, and at the same time, very strong boundaries.
Yes.
And responsive versus reactive parenting, compassionate discipline versus punishment, and really modeling as your most powerful way to teach children how to behave. Because as we know, children learn mostly 99% of what they learn is caught, not taught.
Yes, I absolutely love how you described this, even differentiating between, okay, we have all or nothing, and this is in the middle, because I've heard so many people assume that gentle parenting or positive parenting is permissive parenting, and that's not what we're talking about at all.
It's not. It's really not. And what I've found, I've been doing this now for 15 years. I found this work when my little girl was 3 and she just turned 18. And so it's so fun, Steph, to sit on the mountaintop, so to speak, a little bit, because everything I teach is not just theory. We've really lived it out, not just in my home, but the home of thousands of parents that we've helped. But to be able to really see it come to fruition. But what I have found through the years is that most of us who are practicing this form of parenting, we often have firmer boundaries and rules. But I would say it's around what really freaking matters, not the old school inherited, like this matters, but more like what actually matters, that you want to be so firm around, where the actual data is there. Yes. Like technology is a great example. We can riff on specifics later, but letting go of those inherited beliefs that this matters, and instead, like really anchor down into like really what matters. Safety is another one that I saw us really focus on through the years, that other families might be pretty lax about, but then they are like hardcore. They have like punishment present in their home, but then they'll be really lax about safety or technology. So it's far from permissive parenting. And yeah, it's true power. It's being able to influence another human being through relationship and true respect. We help a lot of families who are raising strong-willed kids, which we see as future leaders, which we see as like world changers, and they do not tolerate hypocrisy. They will call out hypocrisy so fast. And so they really often are the ones who transform family legacies if the parent sees the invitation and accepts it to eradicate hypocrisy from their life and step into confidence as a parent, but without the fear and force and power over a structure.
I am just sitting here like, oh, I am so glad we met because we are so, so, so aligned. I can't wait to circle back on the inherited beliefs portion and what actually matters and having pretty firm boundaries around the things that really do matter. Before we get to that, can you share a bit more about your story and where your passion for breaking generational cycles came up for you? Maybe some of the struggles that you went through and how you overcame it.
Yeah, I'd love to. It is wild that it has been 15 years. I feel like when your kids are little, that phrase of like, oh, the days are long, but the years are short or something. Like, you kind of roll your eyes when your kids are little. But then when you get your kids to be like, my little guy is 15, he's 6'2" now, but he's 15 and my daughter's 18. But darn it, it really is true. It goes by way too fast once your kids are in the second decade. So I can't believe it's been 15 years. But yeah, so when I went to have my second child, I was full-time in corporate, loved my career. I was like, I am an accomplished human being. I was like killing it in corporate, just felt like whatever I set my mind to, I could do. I'd gotten really lucky with marriage. Marriage had felt really easy and married to my soulmate, my best friend. And then I had my Stella, Bella, and she came out of the womb very strong-willed. Like you could, no joke, sense it from birth. We had a very traumatic birth. Thank God we're both alive. But we joke that she didn't want to come out. And then also that she had such a beautiful will to be here. Gosh darn it, that she was going to get her butt on earth because we just both endured a lot during birth. But during the first few years of life, we could just feel her strength. People would hold her and it's like she felt like a muscle. Like she held her head up very high from very young, whereas we would hold our friends' babies and they were kind of like buttery and gooey.
Squishy.
And soft, squishy. And oh gosh, Stella had colic. It was just a rough start, her first few months, few years of life. But I was doing well. I was like, I've got a nanny. I love my career. Had my second little guy. And I decided, you know what? I think it's time. I want to stay home and be with the kids full time. I didn't like my boss at the time. So I was like, all right, this is a perfect exit plan. And then that's when stuff really hit the fan because it did not go as planned. Once I was home full time with my kiddos and with Stella, we were just constantly power struggles. She was in timeout 50 times a day. I just had the classic hand-me-down toolkit at that time. So it's like if the 3-year-old didn't behave, you put her in a timeout, you do the 3, 2, 1 countdown. And if she doesn't listen, you threaten that she won't get dessert after dinner or that she's not going to get her TV time. And that'll work, right? You show her who's boss. I would ask everybody around me, from neighbors to my boss to friends. At that time, a lot of friends didn't have kids yet. And they all told me, make sure you show her who's boss. A lot of people in the Christian space, like, make sure you break her will young. And here's the creepy Christian book that'll teach you how to use a switch on her. And it was like, my heart was just like, what is happening? But at the same time, I was like trying something. Because I'm like, I should know what to do here. So finally, there was a night where I remember just sitting on the hardwood floor. I live in San Diego and it was like the core of winter. She had just woken up from a nap and was having like the worst tantrum ever, who knows from what. And Taryn, the baby who had colic too, was just crying. And I picked up my phone and I remember recording like a 4-minute voicemail to my sister-in-law. And just like they were screaming, they're both screaming and just feeling like the biggest failure on the planet. Like, how could I be this well-educated and accomplished, but yet I have literally no idea how to make this tiny human. And then this baby is so unhappy too, but especially the tiny 3-year-old human to just do what I want. And I texted her this message and I said, I'm miserable. This is not what I thought it was going to be. There's got to be a better way. And I think that moment was pretty pivotal for me because until that point, if you saw me at the grocery store, I was really fit at that time in my life. And like you'd say, how's it going? And I'd be like, oh, fine, I'm tired, but like I'm fine. I wasn't fine. And it took admitting, I really am struggling here. I need some help because I'm not sure if I like this human. I don't want to spend my days with her, but yet I've given up my career to be with her. So long story short, a few days later, I walked into her preschool and there was a sign. And I always joke that like it was a literal sign this time. We all have signs in our life, but this was a literal sign. And it was an invitation to a free positive parenting class that they had been teaching at that school for, at that time, it was 20 years that they had been providing this free class for parents of the students. And I walked in there. And so after a few days of being in that class with my teacher that I ended up studying under for a decade, the light returned. I started to just really see different ways of doing things. I started to take responsibility for my part of the dance. I started to clean up the belief systems, understand that there was much different ways to get a child to put their shoes on or sit still at the dinner table or teach important life lessons after they had made a mistake or bit their brother. I have so many stories that I write about in the book. She drew blood from her brother one day when he was 11 months old. But yeah, everything started to click and it just changed her life. So a few years later, I decided I got to teach this stuff. Started teaching in my town in San Diego and then decided to have this message, so to speak, be preached on the mountaintop so families across the world could know that they truly were at choice, that they could choose a different model and step into that education with confidence and even excitement. And that's when I started Fresh Start Family. And now we've been able to help thousands of families from all over the world. And we've got our podcast, the Fresh Start Family Show. My husband does a lot of the educational lessons with us. So the dudes, or we call them rad dads, can see that male voice, be part of it too. And
it's important.
Yeah. So that's kind of my story. And now still is 18 years old and that beautiful strong will that, thank God, we were mentored on how not to break, even though so many people and even people in our church were telling us to. Thank God we didn't break it, because she went on to use that strong will to secure a Division I beach volleyball spot in a top 10 school in the nation. They were number 8 last year. And she'll be headed there in the fall to play Division I beach volleyball, which is a feat that only 1% of high school athletes attain.
Wow, you must be so proud of her. So proud of her.
Well, it really is because of this work. I'm telling you, it's her for sure. She has the grit, perseverance, but this work helped us support her and honor that personality instead of make it wrong through the years, because it's intense. Raising a kid like that is intense for sure.
Oh, so intense. And it's so common for people. Well, I think it is for them to know, like, one day this is going to be really good, but right now this is a horrible experience to parent. You're going to be powerful, kid, but you also better listen up here.
Yes, exactly.
I love that her preschool had this coach coming in and offering these classes. You said for 20 years. I've never seen that before.
Isn't that cool?
I feel like that should be so common.
I know. And it was really a full circle moment, because last year I started teaching class because my teacher retired. And so it was like I was sitting in the same classroom teaching this class now. And it would just, I love that little school so much. And the preschool director at that time, she changed my life too, because I was so scared. I'm like, what is wrong with my kid?
Yeah.
On the inside, I was thinking, what is wrong with me? Like, I should know. I thought I was always going to be good with kids because I had worked with kids growing up. I was a springboard diving coach, all the things. But inside, the unspoken was like, what is wrong with me? But on the outside, there was a lot of blame. I was like, something's got to be wrong with this kid. You don't understand how difficult she is. And that preschool director at the time, Miss Sandy, I remember her being so bold with me and being like, Wendy, there's nothing wrong with her. She is going to do really big things. You've just got to learn and step into some education. So sign up for that class, make it happen. But she saw Stella in the light that I could not see at that time. And we need people like that in our lives to remind us, because we know we're so triggered by our children, because there's a lot underneath of it than just the misbehavior. But people that are able to give us just a little bit different perspective and guide us towards the light, they're just such important people in our life.
I love hearing that, because there's so many people who avoid these hard conversations, and she didn't gloss over it. She was like, no, here's what I see. Here's an opportunity that you have. Are you going to take it? And something else that you said stood out. You asked the question earlier. It was a question to yourself. Do I even like this human? And if we find ourselves, when we find ourselves saying, I don't like you, it's actually that we don't like ourselves in that person's presence.
Yeah, I agree. And also, there's a whole chapter in the book called Healing Through the Mirror. Yeah. We really often in our work see that there is a mirror aspect of parenting. And the kids that we are the hardest on often have a lot of similarities to us
100%.
That we shame or ridicule or were criticized growing up. And so we still have this inner critic voice that we're too much or that being outspoken or
is not okay. You'll lose love. Yeah.
Right. Strong-willed kids or anybody that has like more of a stronger voice or goes for what they want, they often get in trouble a lot, which means that they make a lot of mistakes. And that's just how these type of humans really learn the best. If you tell them, they're just like, meh. But if they make a mistake and then learn from it, since most misbehavior is not 4-alarm fire, most misbehavior is repairable. It's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. That's the way of the human life. But when you were raised, that was not the way that the parents did it, right? So if you made a mistake, shame, bad, what's wrong with you spawn this mini human that sometimes looks and acts just like you, but you kind of are very hard on yourself. So the mirror aspect, it's a little bit of a compliment to what you said of we find that the more you learn to love yourself and have self-compassion and acceptance, then the easier you love your children. Yeah. It's just easier.
100%. Exactly the same. Yeah. I was raised to avoid making mistakes at all costs. And so that was a big shift for me. Like, wait a second. Okay. I got to grad school, just like quick tangent, and they were encouraging us to make mistakes and showing us research on the value of mistakes. And I think my whole brain exploded. Like it fell on the floor. Like, wait, what?
Yeah. You mean we can? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So what more than anything do you want parents to know as they're raising their strong-willed kiddos?
I think what just comes to me right away is that you're just doing such a good job. Like, again, it is so intense raising a little human being, especially if they have that strong will, the big justice button, that bigger voice, right? A lot of the strong-willed kids are very kinesthetic. So they're the touchers and the kickers and the biters and the big emotions, right? Like you're just doing a great job. And a lot of parents are just under-supported. And a lot of times what I realized back in my story, because in the moment I really felt like, what's wrong with me? There's got to be something wrong with me, or there's got to be something wrong with Stella. Yeah. I was watching documentaries. We had her at doctors thinking like, if someone just gives us a diagnosis, it makes sense, right? If someone just says, okay, she's ADHD, or like I remember watching documentaries on like bipolar thinking, maybe that's what's wrong here. Yeah. And I even Googled like exorcism one night. I was like, what if she is possessed? What if she is possessed? Yeah. Because it would just felt so bad some days. I would say, pull the dog or don't pull the dog's tail. She would like look at me right in the eyes and like pull it harder. You know, or like I'd say go right and she would go left. And I'm like, something is wrong here. Yeah. There was nothing wrong. It was just an undereducated human trying to raise another undereducated human in the hardest task of life. And so that is the big takeaway. Like nothing was wrong with me. Nothing was wrong with her. Nothing is wrong with you. Yeah. We just needed a bigger toolkit. And so that's been my big realization over the years is like most families are just one full toolkit away from thriving as a parent. And it's really the 4 pillars. Like you just want to get yourself educated on some of the beliefs, right? So dropping some of the beliefs, and we might dig into those if you want, but which we would call changing your paradigm, right? As Stephen Covey says, the world is not as it is, but as we have been conditioned to see it. Yes. And so when you're constantly looking for where your kids are being bad, naughty, selfish, disobedient, what you focus on grows.
You create more of.
So we teach parents how to be rooted in trusted psychology to understand human needs and what a child is actually doing or the needs that they're trying to get met when they misbehave. We believe all misbehavior is communication. Then we teach parents how to start communicating differently, like letting go of threats is one example of it doesn't work well. Might work well in the short term, but long term, they don't work well. So change your communication. Then we move on to the 3rd pillar, which is understanding why kids misbehave, root causes. There's 4 big ones that we teach. And then we teach strategy directly for those categories. So like if you have a kid doing power struggle behavior, you're not going to want to just slap a timeout on there. Like it's just not going to work. You got to know exactly what strategy works for the need or the communication that they're giving. And then we teach families the last pillar, which is how to compassionately discipline, which is how to teach a child important life lessons when they make a mistake. And we teach them how to let go of the punishment model, which just changes everything. So you're not broken. Your kid's not broken. You are not failing. You're doing a great job. Yeah. You just are going to want to get yourself supported because you are under-supported, and education is the antidote to that.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, so earlier you mentioned those inherited beliefs and having strong boundaries around what actually matters. You want to talk to us about that?
Sure. So the biggest one we see, the big one, which is most of us grow up thinking, and because this was the system, this was modeled to us, that a misbehaving child equals a bad child equals a bad parent. So this is why so many of us, and I have so many stories like this, but you'll kind of be doing okay in parenting, and then you realize someone's watching you. So maybe it's Thanksgiving dinner, or if you're in a grocery store, and somebody looks at you and is like, oh, they give you a little scowl, or maybe they don't even give you a scowl, they just look at you. You trigger, and you might go to reaction, yelling, grabbing a wrist too tight. That's it, you're punished. Or gritting, talking to your teeth, like, that's it, you're not going to get your eye, whatever it is. But a lot of us, the trigger flares up if we have someone watching us. We notice someone is watching us. And so it just comes back to that belief. Misbehaving child equals a bad parent. And that's just outdated. It's like, imagine if we all had iPhones from like, I don't know, when did the iPhone come out? I don't know, 98? Who knows?
2000 something, I think. Yeah.
I think you're right. 2004 or 5 maybe? But imagine if we were all rolling around with like 2005 iPhones. Like, no, it's outdated. Psychology has proven that that's not actually what's happening.
Right.
So instead, the belief that we really help parents identify first and foremost, that's like the first thing we work on when they come into our world, is a misbehaving child equals a communicating child.
Yes.
They're just trying to get their needs met. They need to feel powerful. They need to feel loved. They need to feel valuable. And they need to belong.
And so do you.
Yeah. Power and belonging are the biggest ones. And then from that place, so a misbehaving child equals a communicating child equals an empowered parent who has options on how to redirect misbehavior with confidence and connection. So we just kind of shift that belief right in the beginning. And then we find that once parents really start to believe that their kids are not out to get them, that they're not just trying to get away with bloody murder. That's like a weird phrase my mom used to use growing up. She was raised Irish Catholic. It's like, I'm not going to let you get away with bloody murder. They're just learning how to be human. They're just trying to figure out this thing called life.
Yeah. And then I also hear like, oh, they're trying to manipulate. I don't think your 5-year-old is trying to manipulate. Yeah.
No. They're just trying to get their needs met.
Yeah.
Power, belonging. It's big. Yeah. They need to feel powerful. And those strong-willed kids have a giant need to feel powerful. And when you see that as like good,
the control,
even though it's a pain in the butt sometimes, that's what creates those really strong leaders who go for what they want in the world, but don't do it with like aggression and power over. They do it with commitment and perseverance and belief in themselves, which can change the world.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then there was a second thing you said.
What actually matters, setting the boundary.
What actually matters, Yeah. So the things that I have seen in my own journey, I'll just give you some examples, is we really try to like hunker down into data and research as much as possible. So there's a lot of beliefs about what might put a child at risk. And so a family might have like harsh boundaries and rules around it. And really, the data shows differently. So, for example, I was just working with a family last week who has a teen that has some pretty significant rebellion behavior, which is what happens after often a family uses the autocratic ways. The first decade, they might work for a little bit, but they won't work long time. They often backfire. But they were having all these battles over her makeup. And I don't know if most of your listeners have little kids or bigger kids.
They're all across. All across.
Because this theory that we teach here is all the same. We have different stories and different examples for different age groups, but it's all the same. It's all the same theory, which is just beautiful. But they were having these big arguments about her makeup and how she would wear too much eyeliner. Or they just were like, no, you cannot do that. Because they really thought it was going to put her at risk for dating older guys. Like they wanted her to be like, their heart was so awesome. They wanted to keep their kids safe. And yet they had given her an iPhone very young and given her this access to what actually puts her at danger, right? So I was working with them to reset a little bit and understand that when we look at the data, the biggest deal that matters is the technology safety, which is what we advocate for these days. And this does not mean that if a family is not following this, that they're doing it wrong or that we're shaming them. And we just really hunker down into the research. Jonathan Haidt has done tremendous work around this. We've had his colleague, Lenore Skenazy, on our podcast before, and their body of work is just phenomenal. But we just advocate for parents to keep iPhones out of children's hands till at least high school, which is quite the feat these days.
These days, yeah.
You are going to be the outcast in your circle if you are the one parent that's like, actually, my kid has a kid-safe True-Me or Gab phone. And we just see the benefits being profound, right? So to keep kids off social media, even though they will beg you 57 times through tears, to be able to do that through relationship instead of shame or because I said so. And that's what our journey was. And my kids are in high school now, and I wish I could keep them off forever. That is an example of just one really strong boundary.
Love it.
That has the data behind it that will keep your kids safe from mental illness, depression, anxiety, suicide, getting into the hands of really dangerous people like older or whatever.
Yeah.
And then the safety thing. The safety is the other example that I often give of like, be hardcore when it comes to safety. So teaching, I remember back, still, but for a long time, we live in Southern California, and I swear we're like the e-bike capital of the world. And a lot of kids would go out in the world and they wouldn't buckle their helmet. They would strap their thing on top. Like, it was kind of maddening to me because I'm like, what's happening there? And I think, I won't go into why that's happening, but that was an area that we were really, really firm in our boundaries. We did a lot of education around, and also had some like significant stories. One that I'm thinking of that I wrote in the book when my daughter like jaywalked one night after I dropped her off at band practice. And we used compassionate discipline to teach her like, hey, we're super firm. Like, we really mean it when we say we're not okay with you crossing the road there, like Frogger, like big deal, right? So compassionate discipline, learning, education about traumatic brain injuries, and just the results have been so magnificent. I won't go into the full story here, but I write about it in the book, how we watched her over and over again make the decision to kind of be the outcast when she was on her bike in town, even when other kids would fly through like the stoplight when it wasn't time to go, right? Like, so when you use compassionate discipline versus punishment, it just works. And that particular example, we've gone on, that was probably, she's 18 now, that was probably like 6 years ago. We've lost 2 children within a half-a-mile radius in each direction of that band since then. Like, it's just so sad, right? But safety,
heartbreaking.
Safety to me is a great example of
things that matter.
You are firm. But like when it comes to maybe the music that they're listening to, or the amount of makeup they're wearing, or like if they want to wear half shirt. I know it feels like it because we grew up with these beliefs that that's going to put you at risk. And if you listen to rap music with bad language, you're going to be like, but actually what I always tell parents, the gateway to drugs, alcohol, rebellion is parents. It's actually the relationship is the gateway.
Yes.
It is. So all those things, all those little pillars that I talked about, when you have those in place, you just have mutual respect with your kid. They trust you, you trust them. You're not hurting and harming them, humiliating them. When that's not present, you just are able to work through challenges and difficulties and then be really firm. It just works. It just works.
So beautiful. You've mentioned your book a couple times. If somebody feels intrigued, what's an overview? Like, what do you dive into in the book?
Yeah. So it's called Fresh Start Your Family, Powerful Parenting to Restore Peace in Your Home. It's a bit of a how-to book, but it's combined with all of my personal stories through the years. And so I didn't know how this book was going to come out of me when I signed with the publisher. And it was fun to write it because I love telling through stories. I love being very vulnerable and real with what I've gone through myself. And my biggest thing was moving from reactive to responsive parenting. So I grew up in a, I would call it a normal home, but at the same time, it just was a lot of reactivity and the lack of peaceful conflict resolution or the ability to work through challenges in a healthy way. And so really coming beside parents and helping them learn like, hey, again, nothing's wrong with you. And if you look at your upbringing and the things you inherited and you want to try on something new, you can fresh start at any time.
And it's never too late. It's never too late.
It's never too late. There's just this toolkit that's ready. And it's 4 pillars. I don't think it's horrible to learn. I think the hardest part is the implementation, right? So the concept of the 4 pillars that differ than how we were raised, they're pretty easy to understand. And then the implementation, we find that a lot of parents are like me, right? You learn it and then you're like, yes, I'm going to go home and I'm going to compassionately discipline tonight instead of punish. And then your nervous system is like, boom, that's it.
Yep.
You're in trouble, yelling, grabbing wrist too tight. I've written some pretty vulnerable articles that I did tell the stories in the book to just help parents understand, like, you are not a bad parent if you've really lost your ish on your children and made some really big mistakes. Like, you can say it aloud. You are not a bad parent. You just have the responsibility to learn a new way, and the opportunity is before you. So I think it's a fun book. There's lots of how-to. And then, again, the personal story part of just story over and over and over again of like, this is what it looks like before I really learned a different way. And then this is what it looks like once I learned a different way and what all the concepts look like in real life.
Yeah, I love that you included story, because when people see, oh gosh, someone, even an expert has gone through this, she's being vulnerable, she's sharing her hardships, they don't feel alone anymore. They feel seen, they feel inspired. Like, I can do it too.
Yeah, it's true. Someone asked me the other day, did you use a lot of success stories from clients? And we have, to this point, we have thousands Google Docs that are like, they max out because Google Docs is like, you have to open a new one. Literally thousands. And I was like, no, because I do feel like I have so many stories. And I think, like you said, Steph, like you just want to hear from the people. I train people to become coaches too. And it's so funny because they always are like, who am I? When they come into my high-level certification program, they're like, who am I? Like, I'm still such a mess. And I'm like, that will make you the best coach. Yeah. People want to learn from people who know their stuff, but also have been through the ringer. So they understand how hard it is to actually change, what it looks like to actually heal a nervous system, not just to teach it, but to actually heal and find the courage to do it differently. So I agree. I think my favorite mentors have been there and are now on the other side of it and just really honest about what it took.
Yes, 100%. Okay. Is there anything else that you want to share? I have one last question I want to ask you.
Ask away.
Okay.
Ask away.
So if somebody listening from time to time feels broken, and that might be emotionally, mentally, physically, what would you want them to know?
Well, most of the time, I would say, like the grand majority of the time would be, it's not your fault. It's just a nervous system conditioning. We've gotten a lot more into the nervous system healing through the last years at Fresh Start Family, because most of the time it is just a nervous system conditioned to believe that rocky seasons or mistakes or imperfection mean that you're failing or mean that you're broken or mean that you're long gone and might as well just throw in the towel and run away. It's like, no, you're just learning, right? We teach that the nervous system will often choose a comfortable hell over an uncomfortable heaven.
100%.
So you just are in a rhythm, right? And a lot of us, it's the inner critic is just a pattern. It's just a rhythm. It's like that inner critic voice is often the voice you heard from a very well-meaning, lots of times, mom or dad. And so that inner critic becomes your voice when you get older. And to shake that and to change it into like, oh, whoops, still don't know how to do this. Oh, isn't that interesting? Like, I'm still yelling to get them to eat their vegetables, or I'm still jumping to punishment and yanking their iPad when they hit their sister. Isn't that interesting? There's nothing wrong with me. I am just knee deep in a pattern because most of the time that nervous system was conditioned, that first decade especially, usually it's 2 decades, but especially the first decade, to see mistakes as dangerous, to see imperfection as something that you really want to avoid. And now we're just shifting it. We're just healing it. So yeah, just hang in there with yourself, because with time and practice, you'll be able to look at the imperfection or where you don't know it yet or where there's still messiness, and you'll just be able to say, gosh, I remember that pit and that darkness that I was kind of swimming in. And now because I had the courage to reach out or read a book or do more of Steph's work, that I'm now on the other side of that. You'll get there. You just got to have compassion. with yourself.
100%. Yeah. Oh, thank you so much for coming on. If someone wants to pre-order your book, where is the best place to do that?
Thank you for asking, Steph. Pre-orders mean the world to us, listeners. Seriously, thank you in advance. This is my first time working with a publishing house, and they love pre-orders. It helps places like Target and Barnes & Noble and Amazon really feel confident getting our books in stock. So thank you so much. Yeah. FreshStartFamilyOnline.com/pre-order. And we have some really fun bonuses that are there. You get a sneak peek to the intro in the first chapter. You get our expanded implementation journal, which is just a beautiful way to implement the action tips and the journal prompts in each of the chapters. And then when you pre-order, you actually also get invited to be on our launch team, which is just kind of a fun private group. I'm hosting workshops and Q&As in April. So yeah, pre-orders mean the world to us. And then also, if you want to kind of dive into the classroom with me, we have a free resource. It's called our Cactus Kids Survival Guide. We often refer to strong-willed kids as cactus kids because they are so beautiful. And if you don't learn how to handle them well, they will bloody you and you will be miserable. So
that's adorable.
FreshStartFamilyOnline.com/strong-willed kids is that free learning guide, and it comes with a free class, interactive class that's really, really beautiful to help you if you have a strong-willed kid. So come find me in both those places, and I'll see you inside the book.
Beautiful. I will also put those links in the show notes. So if you weren't able to write them down in time, just check the show notes and you can click and join Wendy there. I love the bonuses that you're including as well. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you again for having me. This was so much fun.